Good morning, everybody. Good to be with you all again after my 2-week absence. So today's kind of a big day. In addition to our service, we are having an informational meeting that follows the service at 11:35 that replaces the annual general meeting that would normally take place today. So we'll take a 5-minute break just for you to grab some refreshments. So hopefully you've got something ready to eat. And so today, the theme is moving onwards and upwards, based on my experience over the last 2 weeks of moving after 20 years. So we will start. I'm a little bit rusty, I have to tell you. Stop share. Okay, here I am. So we're going to start with the lighting of the candle, and today I'm going to do that. The Christ candle represents the spirit of the divine in all forms, the very essence of everything. And as we begin our service today with the lighting of the candle, our traditional little practice, we do so with a little difference. We do so solemnly by appreciating the 2.5 million plus people around the world, including the 500,000 plus Americans who have died from COVID. As we acknowledge the human experience that their passing entailed, both for them and for their families, and for all of the grief that was involved in all of that, we remember also that it is the divine presence inhabiting their bodies who also shared in this experience. And as we think about that, we then realize that they did not die alone, and they most certainly did not die in vain. And I invite us now for the next minute to simply sit in the silence, connecting with that same spirit of life that is in all things. Thank you. When people leave the planet in vast numbers, either by natural causes or wars or acts of terrorism, disaster, they do us and humanity a great service. They take with them the negative energy of the collective and the ancestral cellular unprocessed pain. So we are grateful to all those who have passed from COVID for their service to humanity in lightening the load of the heavy energy that is on the planet. And so as we start this morning with some music, it's a little more solemn perhaps than our usual opening. It's a beautiful song from Kieran Drucker, I'll Light a Candle.
I'll light a candle in your memory, though I don't know who you are. And when I think about your family, I will wish upon a star. And I pray that they'll find peace someday. I pray they'll make it through. I'll light a candle in your memory to honor you. I'll light a candle for America. May we feel peace inside. We'll hold each other closer and wipe the tears we've cried. And I pray we'll bond together, and I pray that we'll pull through. I'll light a candle for America, for me and for you. And we will light the world with our love. I know that we will light the world with our love, with our love. I'll light a candle for humanity, for the good that's yet to come, as we overlook our differences and join now as one. And I pray we'll come out stronger in this world I'm dreaming of. I'll light a candle for humanity, to be a world living in love. And we will light the world with our love. Know that we can. We will light the world with our love. Every day, in every way, we will light. We will light the world with our love. I know that we can, and now that we will light. We will light the world with our love. I'll light a candle for humanity, for all the good that's yet to come, as we overlook our differences and join now as one. And I pray we'll come out stronger in this world I'm dreaming of. I'll light a candle for humanity, to be a world that's living in love. I'll light a candle
Beautiful song from Karen Drucker, so heartfelt. Well, today is the last Sunday of February, which in this country is designated as Black History Month. And unfortunately, with my preoccupation over the last couple of weeks with moving, I really haven't given a lot of attention to that this year, and I'm kind of sorry about that, especially in view of what we experienced last summer with the horrible deaths of so many African Americans at the hands of police, and then the obvious systemic racism and the ways in which their votes are still being taken from them, or attempts are still being made to do that. And I think it's important, again, for us as white people to really engage in these moments, in these programs, etc., like Black History. And to that end, if you haven't seen the two-part documentary on PBS entitled The Black Church by Henry Louis Gates, then I would really encourage you to find it on PBS or even online on YouTube. It's an amazing documentary that he's put together about the history of Black spirituality and the Black church in this country. And it gives great insight into their beliefs, their practices, where a lot of that came from. And of course, it's got some great gospel music as well. But what I would like us to do this morning is reflect upon what change, if any, have we made in our thinking, or more importantly, perhaps in our behavior as a result of the events of last summer, now that we've had maybe a little distance from that. At that time, we briefly looked at the idea of white privilege in our lives, and how, not if, but how we are complicit in it, even if it's unconscious. And so I want to use this last Sunday in February as a moment for us to really stop and to think. Have we done anything to honestly look at ourselves with regard to this issue, to our privilege? Or is it something that we noted back then and then we kind of moved on? I, for one, feel guilty, as I had intended, as I said, to make an issue out of this in the fall, to have a series of classes, but I kept running into some challenges, and I find it very interesting that I simply let it go. What's that about? Racism and white privilege causes real pain on a daily basis to our brothers and sisters of color. And this past week, I was watching one of my favorite TV programs, Finding Your Roots, on PBS, in which Henry Louis Gates was helping Farrell Williams to uncover his ancestry. Farrell is the singer who had the huge hit with the theme song Happy from the movie Despicable Me. And this episode was untypical of all the other interviews in the series. I've watched this program for I don't know how many years, in that they had to stop filming because the information that was shared with Farrell was so traumatic for him. It was first-hand written testimony from a great aunt who was involved in some program back in the 30s to write about her ancestors. And he was moved to tears, to silence, and to anger on being told of the history of how his family members were treated by their slave owners. The contrast was so stark. Here's the guy, the happy guy, who had that wonderful video. And then to see him almost immobile, he was just not able to respond. And so, as you said, they had to stop recording. and come back a month later to finish the interview. And I was deeply affected by that interview. Because it brought home to me the real pain of racism, and it made it personal. I took it in and I really felt his pain as if it was my own. And so it raises the question, how would you feel if it were your grandparents and great grandparents were the ones enslaved, whipped, branded, raped, and treated as property? We need to connect with that pain at that intimate level. I feel like there's a force field that pushes us away from taking white privilege and racism seriously. Again, as I said, my intent was to have all these classes, and somehow I let it slip through my fingers. And we need to let this reality into our hearts and our consciousness. This morning, I ask us to stop and take another look. Remember that it is the divine who experiences racism as people of color under a system that we unconsciously support. And I would love some feedback, not in chat, please don't use the chat button, but in email, or you can call me over the phone during this coming week as to what we can maybe do together. Because it is ours to do, and we need to do it for the sake of our colored brothers and sisters. I would invite you to look up the episode of Finding Your Roots on PBS with Farrell Williams, and it might just give the motivation to make a change or to get involved and to be committed to doing something personally, or at least to allow the real pain of racism to touch your mind, your heart, and your soul. And so at the beginning of the year, I made a pledge, and I want to repeat that pledge this morning, and I'm inviting you to say it along with me. I, Jerry, do solemnly vow that I will faithfully execute my role in healing, reimagining, and rebuilding our country, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend dignity, justice, and joy for myself and for all around me, that I will do so with love and forgiveness in my heart. And at this time, I'm delighted to welcome Claire Palmerino, who is going to read the daily word for today.
Good morning, Unity family. The daily word for today is connection. I honor my connection with all people. No matter how great the distance that exists between me and the people I care about, I know we are connected by our love for one another. Today, I reestablish and strengthen this connection by reaching out, even if it's only to let someone know I'm thinking of them. Our connection is also kept strong through prayer. As I pray for those I care about, I bless them by holding my highest vision for their lives, seeing them as healthy, prosperous, happy, and fulfilled. Whether we're in frequent contact or have fallen out of touch, my connection with my loved ones remains strong because we are one in God, one in love. And the scripture verse for today comes from 1 Corinthians 12:13. For in the one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews and Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit. May we honor the connection not only with those we directly know, but to all people all over the earth. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Claire. And so we talked there about prayer. And so at this time, we open our hearts to include all those who have asked for prayers. We start, as always, with Sean Bartlett, who continues his treatment, for Pat Woodruff, Barbara McCarthy, Andy and Kieran Holman, Ellie Holman, Jim and Sharon Hald, for Greg and Patricia Plank, for Claudia Martin's sister, Patricia Kastrup, and Claudia's niece, for Keith Malley and his family, for Michelle Harris and Bree, for Laurie Gubera Stengel, for Jem and Catherine Doolittle, for Will Emerson, for Catherine Hammers, and for Robin Casella, Dennis's brother, who is on hospice in Spokane. So we open our hearts to all those who we know are struggling at this moment. We just connect, as our daily word says, with them in our heart space, and we allow the light and love of Spirit to flow through our hearts, to connect with them through time and space right now with a blessing. And we know there is only one presence and one power, active as the universe and as our lives, the all-loving goodness of God, and all is well. And so at this time, we have our meditation for today with Claire.
Well, good morning. The meditation that I prepared today is about compassion, and I focus primarily on self-compassion. Compassion for others begins with understanding and acknowledging our own pain and suffering. So today in our meditation, we'll do some gentle shadow work as we focus on healing the pain and suffering that lingers in our energy field. And this meditation is based on a practice of compassion from David Kyle's book, The Energy Teachings of the Three. So thank you, David, for sharing this wisdom with us. So remember that as we bless and heal ourselves, we bless and heal all of humanity. As we clear our fields, we contribute to the clearing of the collective. Self-compassion ignites compassion for all. So before we begin the meditation, I invite you to join with me in prayer. Dear Holy Spirit, Divine Mother, Divine Father, each of us has pain and suffering lingering in our energy fields, expressed as memories or thoughts. Please bring to each of us right now one painful memory or thought that is ready to be released. Thank you for your ever-present love. Amen. So I invite you to just be aware of what thoughts or memories arise. Let us begin the meditation. I invite you to gently close your eyes and for just a moment, breathe slowly and deeply. Put your feet on the floor. And with that slow breath, experience the deliciousness of your inhale and your exhale. Allow your attention to travel to the soles of your feet. Feel your feet contacting the floor And imagine energetic roots growing through the floor and into Mother Earth. Imagine these roots deepening and branching, branching and deepening. Feel the beautiful earth energy come into your roots. And with each inhale, draw the energy up through the roots as high into the body as you can. With each exhale, release the energy to the atmosphere surrounding you. Now bring your awareness to the heart center. You might place your hand on your heart or think of someone you hold dear to activate this center. With each in-breath, say silently within, I am. And with each out-breath, say love. So intake, I am, and out-breath, love. Repeat this for a few rounds of breath. And now we're ready to do this important work. Bring into your mind that memory or that person or that thought that's connected to pain and suffering for you. The one that Spirit brought to your mind. And if you can, name the suffering and pain. Is it shame or anger, failure, physical pain, worry? Understand the underlying nature of the pain. And once again, bring your awareness to your heart center and bring the specific issues and experiences that created your pain to that heart place. Allow the love that you are to hold these experiences as a mother holds her crying child. They're there. I am here. You are loved. Nothing can change that. Feel the heart energy increase. This can be a warming or a pulsing or even an electrical feeling. Just let that heart energy activate. When you're ready, move your heart energy to the top of your head. By sheer intention, move that heart energy to the top of your head and let the energy build. And now let the energy go out the top of your head and experience the expansion of your being, of the love that you truly are. In this expanded space, let yourself see, feel, and experience the expansion of your being. And see your pain and suffering dissolving in this greater frequency of expansion. The burden of this pain and suffering is released. If you find that it returns, repeat this practice until it is completely dissolved. Its grip on you will lessen and decline until it is no longer there. The memory may remain, but the energetic, emotional charge is neutralized. We can do this for ourselves, and we can do this for others. Blessings to you, dear friends. Thank you for your willingness to engage in this practice. When you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you, Kara. We are so blessed to have these wonderful practices that we can share with each other. So I want to share what I think is an upbeat song, or a song that has a hopeful message, Somewhere Over the Rainbow While it sounds like it's somewhere out there, but the song at the end makes it clear that it is inside. And it's sung by Eva Cassidy. If you don't know who Eva Cassidy is, if you've never heard her music, she was a young woman who was basically singing in clubs. I think it was in Philadelphia. And unfortunately, she didn't have healthcare, so she didn't get the checks that are needed. And unfortunately, at the very young age, I think she was about 30, she passed from cancer. But she has this incredible voice. And here's her version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. What an incredible talent she was. So, my talk today is moving onwards and upwards. Dennis and I moved on the 11th of the month from a house that we've lived in for the last 20 years. The split level house had cathedral ceilings, and my favorite feature was the bright light streaming in from all directions. And the split level design allowed Dennis and I to have a sense of our own space as well as a shared space, which was very important for both of us. And over those 20 years, it became a nest, a peaceful haven, a comfortable retreat from the world. And I loved living there. But because of Dennis's health issues, we made a prudent decision to move to a single-story house. When I think about living there for the last 20 years, I see that we both had made a very comfortable and secure place for ourselves. Everything was the way we wanted it to be. But what we want isn't always what the universe or the divine has in mind for us. And so clearly the universe wanted us to move into a new formation or a new design for our lives to help us grow more. And perhaps a good analogy is to think about a kaleidoscope. I have very fond memories as a child of going to my aunt's house, and she had a kaleidoscope sitting on the table in the sitting room. And I was totally fascinated by it. I would sit for hours playing with it, amazed by the incredible, intricate images it would recreate with a simple move of the dial. And of course, the designs would change over and over. And as much as I liked the various colors and the designs, invariably, I would like certain colors and certain images better. The mind has its preferences, and I would be restless until I found what I preferred. And I think that is an apt description of how our minds approach our lives. Despite all the choices and the options that life offers us, we feel safer, more secure and comfortable with stable conditions. We like things to be set in stone almost. So needless to say, my comfort zone and my security blanket of 20 years in the making got ripped apart on the 11th of the month. Initially, it wasn't so bad, but when the full reality hit home on the morning of the 13th, I briefly had a free fall into emotional and mental turmoil. Naturally, moving cracks us open because the protective shell we have lived inside for however long needs to be cracked in order for us to grow and to expand into the next best version of ourselves. I think moving is in the top 4 of the most stressful events in our lives, either the death of someone, divorce. I think maybe moving is the next one on the list. But it's the evolutionary process that we are involved in life, generally, each one of us. If we want to become the highest evolved conscious beings that we can become, we have to undergo this cracking open process over and over and over again. It's the only way. So we can talk about and desire all we want to be the love and the light in this world. But unless we are willing to be remade and recreated over and over again, We can't stay put with any state or form of our lives as we know them. This is the dying before we die process. This is the living, dying, and resurrecting process we must embrace, even though we think it sucks big time. And this is the process modeled for us in the life of Jesus Christ, what in theology is called the Paschal mystery. And it's as if we are a flashlight that has a certain wattage. If we want to be able to shine brighter, we have to have the infrastructure and the rewiring upgraded. Everything has to be ripped out and replaced with a greater capacity. In human terms, that means we have to be willing to be more inclusive, more caring, more open to the experience of others that are different from us, so that we can be more compassionate. And we are emptied out each new renovation in order to become more capable of holding more light, and then of extending that light as love, compassion, and understanding. That is how the evolutionary process works. And like I spoke of earlier, if we are to tackle racism, for instance, we must open or be opened to a deeper awareness of how painful its effect is on others. I want to share some of my experience of the move, as well as to share some basic principles that helped me move onward and upward. And of course, moving is exhausting physically. That's the first thing. And we are pushed beyond our limits into challenging circumstances which strain us emotionally and physically. Dennis and I were both pushed to the brink of our relationship at times. And while enduring this internal and relational strife, you just know you have to keep going. Boxes have to be packed and moved, etc. And while we had professional movers, there was still much we had to do, and thank God for good friends. The mind wants to regain control and wanted the whole process to either stop or be over. Of course, it looks to assign blame and it goes on the attack. Why did you ever agree to do this? What were you thinking? I observed this in my own mind and immediately validated my feelings, but made sure to affirm and appreciate myself as the one in this difficult process. And I could feel the immediate relief flow through my body once I affirmed and appreciated myself for the difficult time I was having, for the way in which I felt stretched beyond my limits. However, the mind doesn't stop with the self. It then goes after others. It's all your fault that this is happening. If you didn't, ... we wouldn't be going through this awful experience. Again, I observed my thoughts and feelings and felt the separation between myself and them. Really important in moments like that to realize I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, to pull back into the center. That helped a lot to reduce some of the anger and the blame. I didn't like the feelings and thoughts that I was having, but I didn't battle with them. Just acknowledged their existence and validated them as this is what's happening, this is what's coming up for me. As Matt Kahn teaches, I simply love the one who was having these feelings and thoughts arising in me. And I had to undergo that experience many times. And I also have to admit that on one or two occasions, I wasn't able to be so graceful, and it led to a major blow up with Dennis. My mind was imploding because I was really in full grief about leaving the house that we loved and didn't really want to leave. It was hard to be at odds with the one person that I wanted to be supported by at that time. The next morning, the full cracking open took place when I woke up and was having such a hard time with the noise level around the new house. We are now right off of 174. And I love peace and quiet in the morning especially, and in that moment I realized I wasn't going to have that at the new house. I've always treasured my sleep time and my quiet time because I know I seem to have super sensitive hearing, and both were being messed with. And at that point, my brain went in two directions. Again, First, attack on me for getting myself into this situation, and then into hyper solution mode. It was ridiculous. We have to move again. We need to do it real soon. And on and on and on. And again, it was interesting to watch my brain scramble for an out. I was in overwhelm and just lost it emotionally. And again, I noticed what I was experiencing and stopped the attack thoughts and loved the one who was freaking out. I was in a very vulnerable place, needless to say, but I went against the grain of all that I was feeling and reached out and asked someone to help me. And for a one on the Enneagram, that's a very difficult thing to do in the actual moment of the crisis. Usually I'd wait until I'm feeling better so that I can relay it as being in the past to avoid sharing the sense of vulnerability in the moment. I got help with some simple items that I needed done that would have been challenging time-wise for me to do with everything else I needed to do. And that was an important sign for me of the progress that I've made from times past. I was willing to be vulnerable and to open up in the moment. This experience led me to ask several questions. What if what you desire is not the greatest possibility for your life? What if my limited understanding isn't grasping the deepest mind of the universe and it's the desire for me to grow in certain ways? Could the universe be showing me the unresolved pain that I have covered over with my, neatly arranged life, my stable life? What perspective would I have to take on board in order to come to peace and understanding? I concluded that it would require that I connect with my deepest and highest self in order to consider the outcomes and the circumstances that would lead me to become my highest consciousness and form and my highest evolution. It makes sense that the things that the ego treasures the most, the things that we don't want to give up, become the last stand of the ego to surrender and allow the spirit to have its way with us. I kept saying this must be happening because it was meant to be and for a higher reason. If it wasn't meant to be, it wouldn't be happening. And I reminded myself that everything has the possibility to help me grow, and that the universe always has a plan, even if I don't know what that is, and I don't particularly like it in this moment. What we need to become our highest consciousness may not always be what we want or desire. But when I can trust that I always get what I need, then I can align myself with my highest evolution. That's the primary acceptance or belief in the vibration of abundance and of a benign universe. What we really want and need, of course, is life's plan for us. And our spiritual life journey is the remembrance of that plan for us, regardless of whether it matches what I think I want or what I desire the most. Overall, the moving experiences were meaningful to rediscover that part of myself that is still in the process of evolving, that isn't fully integrated yet. That vulnerable human side that I thought or hoped was left behind somewhere along the road. I am not an integrated human divine being yet. I still have unprocessed pain to embrace and let go. And Claire gave us a beautiful example of how we could do that with the meditation from David's book. It's humbling to know that the reptilian brain is still there and ready to show itself in extremely stressful conditions. It was an opportunity to join much of the human race and sit in vulnerability instead of the safe, secure illusion so often that we create through religion, spirituality even, and mostly out of our sense of control or power, and the illusory semblance of order or integration that we create for ourselves in our ego minds. Life is indeed like a kaleidoscope that keeps changing the picture for us. And we just want to grab hold of the one we like and keep it stable. But isn't the reality that every second is a new picture? And we are in that new moment having to react. But the universe says, you know, you can't stay still. Can't do that. In order to grow, you must stay in the moment, stay present, and you must embrace whatever is arising, whether you like it or not. You can dislike it, you can cry about it, you can be angry about it, but in the end, you must accept it and allow it by embracing it, or it will cause endless suffering, a lot of grief for ourselves and for others. And the important point also is that we can reach out for support and care from our family and friends when it seems unbearable. They can make it bearable. And that's the real importance of community and the power we have to do good. But first, we must open ourselves to see and feel what the vulnerable in our society see and feel. We must allow ourselves to be cracked open, to experience vulnerability so that we can experience compassion and understanding and empathy for our brothers and sisters in the world, and especially to our colored brothers and sisters. So again, I want to make a pitch. I want you to go to PBS or go online to the YouTube and to watch that interview, or part of it even, with Farrell Williams, because it is so touching and so moving. And I just want to close by a moment of prayer to ask that we would all have the willingness to be open, to be cracked open, to have the willingness to be vulnerable. Amen. So our power words for the last day of February: I express the strength and vitality of God. That's a great reminder to us that when we feel that we are pushed beyond our limits, it reminds us that there is a deeper presence and power that is available to us, the strength of God. And as always, we have a moment of awareness and of gratitude and appreciation for all that we have, and especially for ourselves here at Unity and the Gold Country, for your generosity and for all of the good that is ours. Thank you, God. And so we have our love offering prayer. Divine Beloved, allow me to give with complete ease and abundance, knowing that together we are the unlimited source of all. Let me be an easy, open conduit for our prosperity. Let me trust that all my needs are always met in amazing ways, and that it is safe to give freely as my heart guides. And equally, let me feel as wildly open to receive as to give, so that our light can shine without restriction. So this morning, because I know I talked a little longer at the beginning, and we are getting ready for our informational meeting, I won't have a piece of music at this time like we normally do. But we will have an informational meeting at 11:35 that will replace the annual general meeting that usually takes place on this Sunday. So we will take a 5-minute break after the end of this service and then come back with a cup of coffee or tea or maybe a snack, and really encourage you to stay for this meeting. Claire will be sharing on behalf of the board, and then I also have some things to share, including the whole issue of reopening. And again, we're reminded that this year is a year of renewal, transformation, awakening, healing, and wonder. And again, that only happens through opening ourselves and being vulnerable. The social group continues to meet. We had some new people join, so we had a nice group this last Thursday morning from 10 to 11 each Thursday. If you need some exercise, some movement, you can always join us on Wednesdays at 8:30 for the Harvard exercises demonstrated by Homer Nottingham. Nancy Chandore will lead us in another inspiring dream interpretation class next Thursday. If you've never been part of this, please contact Leslie and sign up. It's a truly a remarkable group, and Nancy is wonderful. All right, so that brings us to our closing song that I invite you to join in singing. Let's choose love once again.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one loving family, sharing one son. I choose love. Yes, I do. Peace for our planet is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one choice unites us. Let this be the one. I choose love. I choose love. I choose
We say our closing prayer together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, because I am, and all is well. Okay.